It's a trend that I definitely would expect because there's several different reasons people might choose not to have a church wedding. First of all, it can be difficult to find a priest. It can be difficult to find a church to have your wedding in. And then a lot of them, if it's not your own local parish, you got to find your own priest, and the fees can be quite high. And the second part of it is that the way people do weddings has kind of changed since COVID, even in that they kind of want everything in the one place. So the issue you always used to have was if you have your ceremony in the church and then you have to arrange a bus to bring everybody to the venue, and then you lose half of them in the pub on the way, and then you're trying to organize everything and get your timeline running. Whereas if you can have your ceremony in the venue, which is what a lot of these would be, it just makes everything much more straightforward for the couple.
And that's an offering that a traditional church wedding just doesn't have.
Well, again, it's the location of it. Now, you might be lucky enough, and if it's your local parish priest, they might be able to go to the venue and do the ceremony for you there. But again, the fact that it's kind of moved away, that all the legal side of it is done by the HSE now, there isn't as much of an onus on people. And as people are getting older and younger people coming through, they don't have the same kind of leaning towards wanting to have a church wedding. Now, obviously, if somebody is religious, of course they can have their church wedding. There's just a bit more organizing involved in it. And a lot of people are just pulling the trigger and saying, listen, it'd be much handier if we have the ceremony in the hotel or the castle or the venue or whatever it is that we're using, and keep it all in the one place and keep it together and make it a bit easier on the timeline.
Mm,
And that doesn't limit them to having a non-religious ceremony. I mean, we offer non-religious as humanists,
mm.
but there's a lot of other organizations that would make up those numbers you mentioned, like spiritualist and interfaith, and there's lots of different ones out there. Your wedding with them is registered as a religious ceremony. So what we find is that
Mm.
people choose humanist specifically, it's that they normally don't want their wedding registered as a religious ceremony for whatever their personal reasons are.
Mhm. Because obviously we're seeing that Clare has recorded its lowest ever number outside of 2020 of Roman Catholic marriages last year. We would obviously look at that and we'd say, okay, that might point to or might be reflective of a decline in the faith, perhaps, or the inclination of people towards religion. That's undoubtedly a factor, but would it be fair to say that that's not the only factor, that you might have religious people, or at least you might have one person in a marriage who might be religious, but they would choose a humanist ceremony because of those practical factors that you've mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, there's the choice about religion or not, but it's also the fact that you've a lot more input into a celebrant-led wedding than you do to one that's in a church or done by a priest. So you kind of, we always call them cookie cutter weddings. I was a wedding photographer for years as well, where the only thing that changes from one wedding to the next is the names, and everything is exactly the same. And these days, people want to put their own kind of twist on things, their own personal touches to it. And having a celebrant led wedding is something that allows you to do that. You can put in elements that you want to have, hand fasting, lots of different options available for them. So a lot of people are now looking towards that, more personalized, more about them, more about the things that they like, rather than being tied down to very, very specific requirements for church based weddings.
And Pat, I don't know how long you've personally been doing humanist weddings, but would you imagine, based on what you've seen over the last number of years, that the popularity of humanist weddings and other non-traditional weddings would only increase?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I started in 2017, and at that time there was about six celebrants before I was doing my training with the batch that I was with, and we're now have 52. So since 2017, it's massively increased the number of celebrants we have to distribute around the country, to have them that they're not a lot of mileage away from couples that want to have their ceremonies. So we're trying to have it that we've got at least one person in every county. We've kind of near enough to achieve that now. But definitely the demand is massive. I'm doing over 100 weddings a year on average for the last couple of years. Even right through COVID, I was still doing four people weddings, because that's what people wanted to do. But certainly, it's massively increasing in popularity. If you look at the number of people that are registered solemnizers, as they're called, which is people that can actually legally marry you, the number of different organizations that are now doing that, different religions, has also massively increased. So there's a whole bunch of new ones kind of coming out all the time, different groupings that are then doing it through their religious organizations.